Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm your host, Ling Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's stories. California has pulled out of a multi-million-dollar contract with Walgreens. The decision comes after Governor Newsom criticized the pharmacy chain for complying with certain states' anti-abortion policies. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice addressed the pressing issues facing our country. Audience members say the speech was filled with surprises, hope, and inspiration. Residents in the snowy mountains are still trying to dig their way out from under several feet of snow. Governor Newsom says California means it when he will not do business with Walgreens. The state is now withdrawing from a multi-million-dollar contract.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced on Wednesday that the state is pulling back its renewal of a $54 million contract with Walgreens. It comes after the company decided it would not dispense the abortion medication mifepristone in 21 states. Newsom said California will not stand by as corporations cave to extremists and cut off critical access to reproductive care and freedom. The contract between the California Department of General Services and Walgreens allows the state to obtain prescription drugs for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Newsom said the state will also review all other contracts with Walgreens. After the announcement, the planned renewal that would have taken effect this May is canceled. The state is looking for alternative options for the same services.
Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice was invited to attend a forum to address fundamental issues facing our country. NTD's Jackie Rios heard from audience members who found the speech hopeful and inspirational.
On Wednesday night, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, the 66th Secretary of State, visited the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library Museum in Simi Valley, California, to address critical questions facing the country. Rice's speech was part of the library's new Time for Choosing Speaker series. The series name stems from Ronald Reagan's iconic 1964 address to support Republican Senator Barry Goldwater's presidential campaign. It has since become a tradition to invite conservatives to speak at the library.
We have made so much progress. And to say that we have not, as some do, is to dishonor the legacy of those who fought and died and struggled toward a more perfect union. To be sure, I do not see the United States of America through rose-colored glasses. I am a child of the segregated South. As Secretary of State, I traveled the world, and no country deals better with difference and tries harder than the United States of America.
She also acknowledged the United States has been a beacon of hope in calling out countries who have broken human rights violations.
In talking about the challenge of Soviet communism, Reagan shocked the world by calling that empire evil. It was not a declaration of war. It was just a statement of the truth. And it showed that he understood that peace through strength was not just the absence of war, but the presence of a just world resting on American power, values, and will.
Some audience members shared what inspired them the most after hearing Rice's speech.
I really was inspired by what she said about China and Russia and the impending issues that we have there. I think they're using Russia as a pawn and trying to challenge our power, and she made that very clear.
Others were also surprised but glad Rice talked about China's role in current global affairs.
I thought it was very interesting, the connection she made between Russia and China and the war in the Ukraine. I hadn't really given that much thought. So.
Audience members call her speech refreshing.
I was really inspired by her overall enthusiasm for the United States, given her background and everything that she's gone through. She still has that perseverance, and it was a really refreshing speech.
Rice says the country is now at a time when people must choose what path they believe is best for the future.
With all of its flaws, with all of its difficulties, with all of its past, we celebrate the progress that demonstrates. Now, I think we know, too, that our strength at home is essential to how we think about our role abroad. So this is a time of reckoning about America's role in the world.
Rice's speech addressed other issues such as school choice, COVID effects on children's education, globalization's effect on American workforce, among others. Yet audiences noted it was full of hope and inspiration for solutions to the issues plaguing the country. Jackie Rios, NTD News, Simi Valley, California.
California is weighing its options of billions of dollars in reparations to black residents. Its supporters insist that such a move will reduce the crime rates in communities, while critics warn that these reparations could be a bad idea.
The California Reparations Task Force is considering a model that would set the state back $640 billion. The proposal would pay roughly $360,000 per person to over 1.8 million black residents whose ancestors were enslaved in the United States. The task force is a non-regulatory state agency that was established in 2020. It was created to study and develop reparation proposals for black Americans who were descendants of slaves. Last week in Sacramento, a speaker at the task force meeting insisted that providing reparations to black people would stop children in the community from engaging in criminal activities. But Ward Connerly, the founder and chairman of the American Civil Rights Institute, warns that this proposal is a bad idea. In an interview with Fox, he says, quote, "We're not insane, and so I think that people of this state would rise up and say no." In the state of California, almost 6.5% or 2.5 million residents identify as African American or black. It is also unclear where the state is expected to collect the $640 billion needed for reparation disbursements. The amount proposed is more than double the $297 billion budget that Newsom proposed for the 2023 through 2024 fiscal year. The task force has until July 1st to provide its recommendations on the matter to the state legislature, which will then decide on the issue.
Californians are still digging their way out from several feet of snow after the powerful winter storms, with some residents confined to their homes for more than a week. Some areas in the mountains saw 16 feet of snow over the last 2 weeks. Let's take a look at the situation there.
After a blizzard swept through Southern California mountains, residents are still digging their way out.
Probably about 1 million cubic yards to dig out. It's a daunting task.
There's quite a bunch of them here. I think there's about 8 or 10 of them or more, and they're going to try to shovel a pathway so I can at least get out to the street.
The 79-year-old found himself shut inside his home with snow blocking the door and stairway out.
We shoveled quite a bit of it out here already. This was up over 10 feet. My door was completely covered. We had no way of getting out of here, and that was getting a little spooky.
Luckily, he and his wife had enough food to get through the 10 days until volunteer rescuers arrived. But some residents in crest-lined California weren't that lucky.
So some of these people have been homebound for 11 days. They've run out of food. They, in some cases, don't have power. They don't have their own generators.
Even those who can get out find supplies limited. People are lining up to pick up boxes of donated food, and some stores are seeing nearly empty shelves. The powerful storm left snow piled high above many homes' first-floor windows, knocked out power to thousands of homes, buried roads, and left many stranded. An elderly man was rescued after nearly a week alone in his car, stuck in a snowbank on a desolate California highway. The 81-year-old says he survived on candy and croissants he had in his car, and rolled down his window occasionally to eat snow, with only a light windbreaker, a quilt, and a bath towel to keep himself warm. Miraculously, he showed no signs of hypothermia and was discharged from that hospital just hours after being admitted. Still, some people managed to have some fun, like this kayaker sledding off the roof in South Lake Tahoe. As the state continues to dig out from the previous storms, more snow is on the way. Some parts of the Sierra Nevada mountain range could get 1 to 6 feet of additional snow. And on top of that, another atmospheric river is about to hit. Some 16 million people across central and northern California could expect rain on top of snow, making navigation out of an already tight situation possibly even more treacherous. The 1-2 weather punch could begin late Thursday and last through the weekend.
We are going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we got for you when we come back. Homeless deaths have skyrocketed in Southern California. Local officials say drug overdoses, especially fentanyl, have been the cause of death. California struggles with building new desalination plants. One attorney explains how the Coastal Commission influences the process. And 6 restaurants have made it to the 2023 Michelin Guide for California. From sushi to fusion dishes, these spots ranked high in taste and presentation. That and more on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, Liang Zhang. Deaths in the homeless population have skyrocketed over the last decade in Orange County. Officials say it's primarily due to drug-related overdoses from fentanyl.
According to the report from Orange County law enforcement, homeless deaths rose from 85 in 2010 to nearly 400 in 2021. Deaths had spiked sharply at the start of the pandemic. The report found that 75% of the deaths were drug-related, mostly involving fentanyl. The report also says that homeless individuals experienced a 100% increase in suicides and a 270% increase in homicides. Don Barnes, Orange County Sheriff, who created the county's first committee to analyze homeless numbers and causes, said, quote, "We continue to enhance efforts to address the fentanyl epidemic and provide critical resources to those trapped in addiction." The report also outlined possible solutions. It proposed increasing substance abuse treatment programs, potential changes in sentencing laws to favor substance abuse treatment over jail time, and increasing the availability of naloxone, a medicine often used to reverse opioid overdoses.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, Los Angeles saw a surge in violent crime throughout in 2021. But 2 years later, data from the police department shows that the crime may be on a downward trend so far this year. According to the recent data from the Los Angeles Police Department, the city has seen fewer homicides and gun violence in the first 2 months of 2023. The department reported a 31% decrease in murders compared to the same period last year and a 39% decline from 2 years ago. The number of shooting victims has also been falling below 100 consistently for the past 5 months. Tom Sago, spokesperson with the Los Angeles Police Protective League, told the Epoch Times that the low crime rate may have something to do with the winter storms we've been having. He said during the first 2 months of the year, it was probably the most weather-challenging time in a lot of places on record. And typically, if you live in Buffalo and there is a snowstorm, there is not a lot of crime going on. But another set of statistics from the LAPD shows that crime rates increased by nearly 41% compared to the same time in 2019. Crimes involving victims getting shot at increased by nearly 65%. Sago thinks it's still too early to tell whether crime will decrease for the rest of the year. It seems California takes forever to create desalination plants. An attorney explains how the Coastal Commission influences the process.
California has always been slow at building more desalination plants. Jeremy Talcott, attorney with Pacific Legal Foundation, tells California insiders Siamak Karami that the California Coastal Commission has a lot of power in approving projects. He gave an example of 2 different projects with very different outcomes.
The much larger project, a $1.4 billion desalination plant that would have produced 50 million gallons of fresh water per day, was not approved. And that's despite, again, 20 years of environmental assessment, approvals throughout every other level of government, and even the support of Governor Newsom. And nonetheless, the commission was able to completely stop that project.
Talcott says the commission did approve a smaller project in October that would cost less, but also produce much less water per day.
What that shows is that, again, the commission wields a tremendous amount of power over the California coast and whether projects may or may not go forward. And oftentimes the justifications or criteria that the commission might use to make those decisions can be somewhat opaque.
Talcott explains that the commission's 12 voting members are appointed, not elected. Established in 1976, they are environmentally focused and their job is to protect the coastline. But even if a project appears to be approved, there are still caveats.
And those conditions include that the developers of the project resubmit additional plans to the executive director of the commission, which the commission is still free to reject. So even though they technically have an approval at this point, it's still not yet clear that they will be able to move forward and actually begin development.
Talcott's nonprofit organization pushes back on the commission because their power has expanded to interfere with individual property rights.
So if you want to build along the coastline in a region that has a certified local coastal program, you will go to the local government first. You will submit your plans to them, they'll review, they'll determine whether or not your project is consistent with that local coastal program, and then if so, they'll approve it. But for areas within, especially very close to the coast, the commission retains appellate authority. And that means either a local activist group, a concerned individual within the area, or the commissioners themselves can step in and take an appeal of your permit approval and then reverse the decision-making of the local government.
For years, the commission could only fine people through the Superior Court after presenting thorough evidence. But recently, they have gained the ability to fine directly with almost no due process.
In 2014, what was added is the ability to fine for any violation of public access. So essentially, if the commission determines that someone interfered with the ability of the public to access the coast, then they could fine them up to $11,250 per day. So that's a tremendous potential penalty power. As of 2022, that power has now been expanded, and they have the ability to fine $11,250 per day for any violation of the Coastal Act. And it's important to note that now that they no longer have to go before an independent judge, this is a power that they can essentially unilaterally impose.
According to Talcott, the commission was designed to balance the power of local and state governments regarding coastal preservation. But now they are changing rules as they go, which is not what it was originally designed to do.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on YouTube or Epic TV on the Epic Times website. Michelin Guide inspectors spend all year on the road uncovering the best restaurants to recommend. Whet your appetite with a sneak peek of the 2023 Michelin Guide California edition. There are 6 new additions spread across the Golden State.
The 2023 Michelin Guide California added 6 new additions. The first one is a Korean spot called Bansang. The name references a traditional style of serving a communal Korean meal. This restaurant incorporates ingredients like Parmesan cheese and chorizo into kimchi fried rice or crispy rice cakes. If you prefer a spot that has both great ambience and terrific food, Leona Sushi House is a good choice. It has a variety of distinctive spaces to spark people's inner creativity. Now, if sushi has become a bit too pricey for your pocket, you haven't been to Sushi Yuen. This simple dining spot delivers many surprises, including well-priced dishes. But it's the upscale, ultra-fresh ingredients coupled with skilled chefs that the Michelin Guide says are the best surprise. Beef lovers would find Niku X a perfect place to taste certified Japanese A5 Wagyu. It is sourced from the group's privately owned farm, as well as from Portland, Australia, and Japan. Another meat-focused spot is Salane Steak Tavern. It provides tender, well-marbled meat, thick-seared mushrooms in a Madeira reduction, creamy, buttery mashed potatoes, and delicious Salane's monkey bread. And last but not least, Mabel's Gone Fishing has a focused menu highlighting excellent local seafood. Its simple yet satisfying approach blends Californian and Iberian cuisine.
Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for an update on sports.
I'm Carlos Reyes, taking you through the California Today Sports Roundup. Kawhi Leonard scored 24 points, Paul George had 23, and the Los Angeles Clippers broke away in the second half to beat the Toronto Raptors. While Leonard and George put up their usual numbers on the offensive end, the biggest key to the win was defense. After struggling to get stops during a 5-game losing streak, the Clippers have tightened up in defense over the past 2 games. Los Angeles held Toronto to 37 of 96 shooting, which was the first time since November 27th in which the Clippers held the team under 40% on scoring attempts. Ivica Zubac added 17 points for the Clippers, who had a season-high 14 dunks along with a 60-42 advantage in the paint and a 20-10 edge in fast break points. Clippers 108, Raptors 100. JT Miller scored his second goal of the game 20 seconds into overtime to lift Vancouver to a win against visiting Anaheim. Miller brought the puck into the Anaheim zone and scored with a wrist shot from the right circle in his 700th NHL game. Andrei Kuzmenko also scored, Elias Peterson had 2 assists, and Thatcher Demko made 20 saves for the Canucks, who matched their season high with their 3rd straight win. Troy Terry and Brooke McGinn scored, and Lucas Dostal made 31 saves for the Ducks, who are 4-1-2 in their past 7 games. Canucks 3, Ducks 2. Team USA suffered a humiliating loss in their exhibition game against the San Francisco Giants in preparation for their World Baseball Classic campaign. Team USA's roster was stacked with regular stars from the MLB, including Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Nolan Arenado, and Paul Goldschmidt. Despite their star-studded roster, Team USA was never able to find a rhythm and suffered the consequences. The red, white, and blue solitary run came from a solo home run by Paul Goldschmidt. The pitchers for the national team didn't come to the party, as some crucial plays were given away early on in the game. For the Giants, Anthony Desclafani pitched 3 shutout innings, Sean Manaea yielded just a solo homer to Goldschmidt in his 3 innings, left-hander Scott Alexander struck out the side in the 7th, and right-hander John Berbria got Alonso to ground in an inning-ending double play in the 8th. The game ended up being a one-sided affair as the Giants triumphed 5-1.
And that is it for today's Sports Roundup. I'm Carlos Reyes. Thanks for watching.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm Liang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.